So our next speaker is Blake Shiver. He is Red Hat's VP of Cloud Partners, and I'm very, very happy to have him here today. The reason I asked him to be here was because of our whole involvement with the Mass Open Cloud and to some extent with Boston University and research here is based on the idea of an open collaboration among universities and industry partners grounded in open source. So the partner aspect is really, really important, and Blake is going to come, he's going to talk about the different ways we work with partners at Red Hat, the things that we have got out of working here with the MOC, with Boston University, and how that can all tie together, and hopefully how some of you folks who are industry partners in the audience can jump in and help, because that's what we're really after is more. So without further ado, Blake Shiver, thank you.
Wow, I feel like I lost the audience. Everybody went to lunch and didn't come back. If anybody can hear me out there, you don't want to miss this, I promise. It's okay, I'll tell a good joke and everybody will come on. Okay, so I do this. Oh, look at that, it works. Well, I hope everybody had a good lunch. As Hugh said, my name is Blake Shiver. I lead Global Cloud Partner Business at Red Hat. I'm a lifelong advocate of open source collaboration, and so given the collaborative moxie in this room right now, what I've experienced so far, I consider it an absolute blessing to be able to speak to you all today. So from what I understand, I've got three main groups of people in the audience today. There's research leaders, a couple of business leaders, maybe guys and gals in the jackets, and students who are our future research and business leaders and who just done an outstanding, impressive job talking about their projects today. In my life, I've been a student, I've been a researcher, and for a short period of time, and currently I'm a business leader. I studied computer science in college, which was less than 20 years ago, yet that education is so out of date it's not even funny. I studied the cloud had not been officially coined when I graduated from college. However, while in graduate school at Clemson, I read an article about a guy at Google who had termed this new concept of cloud computing. That was about 15 years ago, I think. I knew at the time that this new idea had massive potential, but I would never have guessed that I ended up spending my entire career with the cloud being a primary focal of what I do. Yet here I stand 15 years later talking about the cloud to all of you. I hope that by the end of my short talk today, I will be able to bring a little more clarity and awareness to each of you in the room today. For the researchers in the audience, I hope to be able to show you that with Red Hat, you can bridge the work you need to do directly on bare metal hardware with the increasing capabilities that are evolving on hyperscalers and cloud providers. For business leaders, I hope to be able to demonstrate that Red Hat is an industry leader in enabling the hybrid cloud, which means we can enable cutting-edge technology and connect an entire ecosystem of partners to that world of innovation. And for the students here, which I don't see a whole ton of, but this might be the most important group here, I hope you'll see that you have access to the tools that will serve you in your educational and academic pursuits today and into your career for the foreseeable future. So just to start off real quick, I want to talk a little bit about our hybrid cloud strategy. About a decade ago, the idea of the cloud was emerging, as I mentioned before. And at that time, most people thought we'd see two paradigms. We'd see public clouds and we'd see private clouds. And everybody would just go to one of those two. The reality that emerged is a world where compute workloads can happen on physical bare metal and virtual clouds with total abstraction. That's the world we live in today. And while there are a dozen or so hyperscale cloud providers, there are hundreds of cloud providers across the world that address specific market needs. For example, data sovereignty requirements that limit where data can physically be stored have spurred markets for many cloud providers globally. There are hundreds of managed service providers who have majored in creating industry-leading cloud services to support very specific industry needs, which can differ wildly from financial services to airlines to oil and gas and so on. So while it seems to be a concentrated market around a few global cloud providers, it's truly a very diverse and robust market ecosystem with an unthinkable number of permutations of combinations and solutions. Very early on in our journey, Red Hat saw that many customers would really thrive in the cloud if they had ultimate flexibility and choice in how, when, and where they deployed their compute workloads. Having the flexibility to deploy on bare metal servers, virtual machines, private and public clouds, and even specific hardware running at the edge of a network is highly valuable. Then couple that with the choice to run these workloads across cloud providers with seamless abstraction, and you have a truly liberated and robust hybrid cloud experience. The relentless pursuit of this ubiquity and flexibility is what drives Red Hat every day. This is Red Hat's open hybrid cloud strategy and vision. Allow innovators to move fast on stable, enterprise-grade platforms and scale without limitations while maintaining flexibility and choice at all phases. But why is this so important to us? Red Hat really is more than a business. We're a collection of people who want to change the world. To steal a line from Jim Whitehurst and the Blues Brothers, we're on a mission from God. We see the world-changing technologies that can be designed, built, and deployed in an open hybrid cloud framework, and the possibilities are endless. It's hard to imagine being comfortable in a car that is driving itself, but this technology exists and is already at some level a part of most of the cars driving out there on I-95 right now. The innovation in this space is happening faster than most of us could have ever imagined. But at the end of the day, you, the driver, have to adopt the technology if it's going to go anywhere. You have to feel safe loading your family into a machine and trusting that machine to safely navigate the chaos of driving and deliver you to your destination alive. There's no room for error, and so the platforms that run this technology have to be the best in the world. They have to start up every time, never crash, and maintain astronomical security standards. They have to work on bare metal, edge hardware, and communicate with the cloud. They have to perform better than you, the person that loves the people in the car more than anything, in order to gain your trust. Now, I'm a sales guy, and I can tell you right now that that is a very hard pitch to make. But it is coming, and every single one of us will confront that decision in the next decade. So take all of this context and then back up to the day the first part of the code for this self-driving car is typed. How much integrity is gained in that process from the spark of innovation to the trials in the test lab to the moment the family is loading up into that car for a road trip? If the platform used to build, test, and deploy was one consistent, industry-leading platform from start to finish. This is an example of ultimately what has to happen to enable the rapid build and scale out of application that is going to change the lives of tens of millions of users. This is what allows companies to stake the entire future of their in-car OS vision on one stable, secure, and scalable platform. Soup to nuts, this is the applied value of Red Hat's open hybrid cloud platform. Providing world-class software to enable hybrid cloud infrastructure is awesome, but without a diverse and integrated set of ecosystem partners, we would not be able to unlock the world's full potential with these tools. Our goal is to meet our end users and customers with the technology to change the world in any type of physical or virtual environment. And the experience we enable between the two should be seamless and smooth. It truly takes a village to do this, and the community at Mass Open Cloud and Red Hat have been working to build that village around open source technology. As the needs of our customers and end users continue to evolve, we also evolve our technology and business models to continue to meet the highest of expectations. In fact, the entire ecosystem Red Hat brings to the table eclipses 6,000 partners worldwide. In the cloud partner space alone, which is what I look after, we work with over 1,400 partners to advance the vision of open hybrid cloud together. This is a massive feat, but this ensures that the world-changing technology is not limited to a small set of vendors or groups. And this is really the spirit of open source in action in the business community, working hard to ensure availability across ecosystems and technology partners. So what do we do with all of this? One project or one new piece of software or even Red Hat alone won't modernize the cockpit of a commercial aircraft. This is where we come together with our partner ecosystem and the innovators who are developing cutting-edge software-defined aviation technology. When we bring the pieces together, at that moment we breathe life into a new integrated technology solution. Red Hat does not make the flight control systems that you see in the screen, but many of our partners do. And when you need a trusted platform that can seamlessly operate on these specialized hardware systems at the far edge of a network, and also communicate with the connected clouds and on-premise data centers back at home base, this is where Red Hat shines. We have to be that platform, but we also have to connect these partners and innovators together in unique ways to bring new ideas to life. When I look at a project like DISL, which from my notes is Dynamic Infrastructure Services Layer for Reconfigurable Hardware, I see tons of potential here. Here in this room, we have, I think, members of the DISL team. Somebody, DISL team here? Still at lunch? And I believe some people from the Air Force as well. I was told Air Force might be in the room too. They're online. Awesome, Air Force is online. So it's a long shot, but if we could get the Air Force here for cocktail hour and the DISL team back in the room, it would be a super fun cocktail party topic for tonight on how the Air Force, DISL, and Red Hat can change the cockpit of an airplane forever. This is just a fun example of how the research that is happening right here in this collaboration can be applied to enable the airplane in this picture to one day fly itself. So here's my shameless pitch slide for the business partners in the room today. Red Hat seeks to unlock transformative capabilities for our customers. And when we really think about what is required to do that, we need an incredible partner ecosystem to make that happen. Hence our motto, customer first, partner always. For everyone else in the room, it means Red Hat is going to work everywhere on every hardware platform. Red Hat will also work across physical and virtual environments, which you're probably tired of hearing me say at this point. We're not a point solution, we're a technology platform that enables unimaginable innovation to succeed. And there are critical points of value at every step along the way. The key thing to take away here is that Red Hat is a connector that creates ecosystem value. And by being that connector, we can be more effective together as a whole at bringing open hybrid cloud capabilities to the world. Now students, or if there's any students in here, a couple, I want to talk to each of you for a minute. You face a very important choice when you decide what software tools and platforms you will innovate on. During my time in grad school, a long time ago, I remember choosing to major in R, which is an incredibly useful open source tool. But I found myself having to learn new skills and new tools after I left school. All the work I had done to innovate super cool algorithms that could compute non-parametric statistical estimators would not easily translate to the platforms that my employer made available to me. To some degree, I felt like my work was lost. Nowadays, I realize things are different, and there's a lot more portability and integration against software tools than ever before. And honestly, I expect that trend will only continue to improve over time. But choosing to use Red Hat as a platform to build your research on is a choice that will serve you today and into the future. We are constantly innovating and evolving and bringing the best of open source to your laptop, or the server running under your desk that eats your feet in the winter, or the high availability cloud instance that you are deploying to. Or even the quantum computer that you might be trying to use to access the potential of parallel universes and take your AI project to the level of the unimaginable. And that's just something to consider, AI for Cloud Ops team, if you're still in the room. Talking about this bridge to quantum computers may seem like science fiction to many of us, but this technology is real, and each of you can even run basic logic on a real quantum computer today. IBM has democratized access to its quantum compute research lab through the cloud, thus officially creating the most far-out hybrid cloud use case that I have yet to encounter in my life and tenure. The students in this room probably already know this and probably have already executed a teleportation algorithm on a quantum computer by now. And for those of you who haven't, go do it by Friday, and that is your homework assignment. This is the cohort that will change the world we live in. The open hybrid cloud vision not only serves us today, but it fuels and enables successive waves of innovation on technologies that haven't even started to hit mainstream yet. But I also want to highlight problems and technologies that can impact all of us right now today. What about the technology that can help an apiarist better care for her bees and help to stave off the endangerment of pollinators, one of our most precious natural resources? When I hear about research projects like prototyping a distributed asynchronous workflow for iterative near-term ecological forecasting, I see the potential to save humanity from a crisis of famine if we can just connect the research with the applications through the power of the open hybrid cloud. We rarely know all of the specific applications that a focused research project can have, but when we connect researchers across domains and collaborate like we're doing right here today, sparks fly and the world changes. That is really the true impact and power of this incredible community. Red Hat is here at the Mass Open Cloud Alliance, and we have been here since 2015. We are committed to this environment and platform and the incredible collaboration that is happening in front of us. I am also super excited that our partners are seeing this as a viable open space to work with us. I want to say thank you to some of the partners who are in the room or on the phone, and please forgive me if I leave anybody off. So thank you to A-Star, AMD, AWS, Alibaba Cloud, Ampere Computing, Apple, ARM, Cloudflare, Dell, Flax Computing. Of course, I have to thank IBM, my mother company, JP Morgan, Lenovo, Lightbits Lab, MIT Lincoln Laboratory, MathWorks, Microsoft, NVIDIA, Open Infra Foundation, Peraton Labs, Qualcomm, Seagate, State Street, Two Sigma, and U.S. Air Force. These are the folks that will help us move mountains. I don't know of any other place where we can really work together with partners in the open, and with real customers and users the way we can at Mass Open Cloud. There's tremendous potential here, and I hope that through my short talk today, each of you sees a new way you can amplify the impact of your work with the power of the open hybrid cloud. Thank you.
That was great, that's correct, it was 2014 is right.
Oh, okay. Maybe it was our fiscal year 2015, which is awesome. Thank you.
Were there questions?
Yeah, any questions? I've got a few minutes if there's any questions.
We're really jam-packed.
Yeah.
So I guess the word hybrid I think of as being an enterprise to the public cloud. That's what I think of as hybrid. Is that when I think we're at the end? Oh, sorry, I don't know.
When I think of hybrid, I think of hybrid as being enterprise to the public cloud. What's happening here is actually multiple universities, multiple public clouds, enterprises. I actually, it's not just an enterprise to the public cloud. It's actually many cross-connected things. Is that what you think of when you say the word hybrid?
When I say the word hybrid and when Red Hat uses the word hybrid, what we really mean is absolute flexibility. It doesn't mean you have to pick one or the other. We hear about a lot of cloud-native companies that have started up, born in the cloud. That's great for those companies, and they have, they will probably remain in the cloud for most of their life. But when we look at a customer like Kohl's, for example, they're not a born in the cloud company, but they've got to adopt to the cloud. They want to create an app that allows their customers to buy stuff online and real time update the inventory system that might be running in an on-premise data center somewhere. So when we talk about hybrid cloud, we're talking about flexibility, we're talking about choice. And it does tend to angle towards the enterprise customer because that's what Red Hat, focuses a lot on. But that works really well for this group as well too. Maybe not necessarily an enterprise business that's running, but that's looking for some type of flexibility in how you want to work. You may develop a research project on bare metal, but then as it takes off, you want to deploy it on the cloud. I was, really taken away at the project that we looked at earlier that looked at how we can make the compute cycles on a processor almost 40% more efficient just by looking at what is happening and making some, a little bit went over my head, but it was awesome engineering stuff. That right there had to be designed on a bare metal computer, but that could change the entire world if we were able to deploy that on a cloud. And if that project was built on Red Hat using Red Hat technology, then it is much easier to scale that into the cloud. So that type of flexibility is what we mean when we say hybrid cloud. Question about Major.
Thank you. I have two questions about the research agenda and the research topics that you organize. First is, how much of the innovative research done by your team arises from their understanding and interest in what the cloud can do versus specific requests from clients? And of the requests that emerge from clients, how many are driven by, how many of those are driven purely by desire to be more competitive versus trying to manage new regulatory requirements that they face in government?
That's an excellent question. Thank you for asking that. There's kind of two ways that I think of research happening in Red Hat's world. There's research that we do as part of collaborations like this, and just as part of being in an open source community, to figure out at an engineering level how do we make sure what we're doing just absolutely runs better than anything else in the world. Then there's the research that we do just by working with the customer to figure out what business problem are they trying to solve, and how can we enable them to solve the business problem. The example I gave about Kohl's earlier, that was a project. It's not as high IQ, but it solved a major problem for them, and it opened up a whole new revenue stream for them. I don't know exactly what all public customers I can really reference, so I'm staying up here, but I know we had a fast food chain that needed to develop an app for customers to interact and make food orders online, and that was one of the ways they wanted to address business growth during the pandemic. Engaging in that process with them was almost like a research project for us. We put consultants together with them to figure out how do we build that app, how do we deploy that app, how do we make sure that it's always available. If it goes down in one region, we can spin up clusters in another region and make it happen. Through that, requirements are generated that feed into that engineering pipeline as well. So you kind of have those two levels happening. There's also some very cool stuff that we're doing in what we call the edge of our networks. When we talk about the edge, the cockpit that I showed, that's a real example, like self-flying planes, especially drone technology. I'm trying to innovate some autonomous technology there. That's also very research heavy, where we get some requirements from the customer, and then we get together in an open collaboration lab and figure out, all right, how do we make that happen? How do we breathe life into that? And that's a very interesting process. But the way that research happens in Red Hat is more like a community-based model is the best way that I can put it. It's like a community of people coming together to solve a specific problem, and then from that, some type of business opportunity generally is generated.
With respect to the customer request, does it arise often from their need to address a government regulation and then looking for a solution, or not so?
It can, yeah, it absolutely can. In the drone example that I was talking about, there are definitely some government regulation requirements that come from that. Or in financial services, we'll see regulations that will come from that industry. Healthcare is another one. We want to create more data availability or make it easier to share data between different platforms. There's some HIPAA compliance things we have to address there too. So there's definitely some industry-specific, a lot of industry-specific requirements that come from those research projects that then make it into that platform that's then commonly available for everybody to use. So I think that's another really interesting thing about it being, you're not buying a license when you buy Red Hat, you're buying a subscription to everything that we figured out up to that point. So as those new requirements are identified, that just kind of becomes part of what you're getting. But yeah, absolutely, a lot of it is driven by those requirements. Competitive, I do think that customers are always looking for a competitive edge, but it's more, how do I develop a growth line of business, a new line of business, not how do I do something, better than somebody else. They know that their competitors that are buying Red Hat have access to the same technology. Very great questions, thank you.
Other questions? Well, let me add one more, because I like your statement about hybrid cloud. That's great, but in the sense of being able to run anywhere. But there's a specific use case that we hit. Like if you look at Rudolph's talk on Chris, it actually was talking about running things out there, but also about data sets that were shared across hospitals, being able to do analytics across much larger data sets, that collaborative thing. A colleague that's going to come up from Two Sigma is going to talk about how they use public cloud, but they have a highly secure requirements. And it's one enterprise working out. But what you talk about Red Hat going in and doing these collaborations, that's part of academic life. We share data. We compete on publications, of course, but much of what we do is about collaborations across institutional and national boundaries. How do you see that stressing the models that you're thinking about? Or is it just fit in naturally?
I think, very good question. I think, first of all, Red Hat's culture is a very community-based culture. Most corporations are hierarchy-based, because that's how decision-making is going to flow very efficiently. Any Red Hatter in the room will certainly laugh when I joke that decision-making doesn't flow very efficiently at Red Hat, because we're just designed more as a community, not as a hierarchy. So when it comes to working in an academic setting or in a research setting or a problem-solving setting with a customer, we naturally perform very well there. And that's the feedback that I get from our customers and from our partners, for that. So I do think that the way that we're set up, the way that our culture is structured, gives us an advantage that we pass on as we connect customers and partners. Extending that into the, to the world of, research, maybe there's probably a lot more that Red Hat can do in that space. I mean, we get into these point engagements and we work on something, we deliver it. But if we were to look at a project, how it affects the world in general, I don't know, we like to think that when we produce something, it's making the world a better place. But a large research project overall, it's one I'd have to ponder, like how do we make that happen better? How do we do more of that? But anyway, I think our model is set up to be very conducive to that type of approach.
Oh, I definitely agree with that. Comments or any other questions? All right, let's make
Thank you.